He has not issued an official statement saying that his hand, his mind is in this thing. He is not, William Ruto is a problem. He is the one who is incompetent. Okay? But he was using those people he has appointed as a smoke screen. President Ruto has actually peed on the faces of the youth. He's peed on their faces.
Yeah.
Bad urine. What gives him the idea that he can do as he wishes? This is not his personal house, this is not Sogoi. I think the president needs to stop being simplistic.
Is there a vacuum post Raila?
Play one clip where Ruto has spoken truthfully.
Are we looking at what is being termed as the government of national unity after the nomination of ODM members inside President William Ruto's cabinet? My conversation today on Philip Kisia Unscripted is about that, the protests that are happening in the country and what can be done because this country is seemingly aging closer and closer to the edge. I'm here with Philip Kisia. He's a former Nairobi town clerk, ex-KICC CEO. He has done so much for this country, and that's why we have these conversations with him every single week so that we understand what is happening in the country to help our political leaders in making better policy and political decisions. Thank you, Kisia, for hosting us once again at your place. How are you doing this particular week, especially with everything that has happened since yesterday?
Jed, I'm confused. Yeah.
You're not doing well, you're just confused.
I'm confused.
You're not doing bad, you're just confused.
I'm just confused.
You know, you're looking at the situation in this country and you're wondering, what is happening? That is the conversation we're going to have. But Kisia, highlights first, through your confusion. What have you seen?
You see, even before we talk about the highlights, we've been talking about a parliament that has been castrated. Yeah? So it was of no use to Kenyans. We've been talking about an incompetent and corrupt executive that people have said, Tawe, no, they should go home. Then the Kenyans had some little hope left in the judiciary. Now we seem to have lost the opposition. Which country are we living in where there are no checks and balances? We cannot all fit in government. There must be Kenyans who are running government. There must be competent Kenyans who are checking on the executive. But now we have a situation where there's no line between government and opposition. And it is very saddening because we've received mixed signals from the opposition. They are so disjointed. ODM, which is my party, talking a different language today, tomorrow a different language, in the evening a different language. And for the first time, Kalonzo Musyoka, who for so long we've considered to be watermelon, has stood his ground.
Oh.
So it's a very sad state of affairs that we have a country where we've all been put in one pot to melt, boil, and die. But you asked me about...
I want to know the highlights first and then we'll get back into the conversation.
For this week.
Yes.
You know, there are two that, given the events that have taken place in the last 2 or so days or 3 days. One is, the Kenya Bora tunayotaka going to court with a prayer, because I've cited 31 cases where President William Ruto and his deputy have actually offended the Constitution. They have disobeyed the Constitution, and therefore they are seeking the court's direction in determining whether the two gentlemen are actually fit to continue staying in office. So they are basically saying that the two have violated the Constitution, and when you violate the Constitution, it is only the courts that can send you home. Because we have no faith in our parliament. It is a castrated parliament. It is a parliament that is operated from State House. It is a parliament that is run with brown envelopes. So there's no hope there. And that is why the Kenya Bora Twaitaka, ama tunaitaka, Tuitakayo,
yes,
has proceeded to, to the court. And their basis of argument is Article 1, that all sovereign powers belong to the people. And it's the people of the Republic of Kenya who determine how to be governed. They are the ones who give you powers to govern. And when they are sick and tired of you, they can recall those powers. So, of course, the group is hoping that, that the courts will rule in their favor, and we shall send the entire executive home, starting with the president himself, parliament, so that we can have a fresh start. The other thing that, caught my eye is the issue of, politics in Kenya is about the stomach. What Arap Moi used to refer to as the Tumbo policy. It has actually been demonstrated. It has actually confirmed that Moi was actually right. That Kenyan politics is not about philosophy, it's not about ideology, it is purely about the stomach. It is a government, it is the stomach that drives the agenda. Then I sat down and asked myself, where my friend Sabina Chege is sitting today, and Kanini Kega, who took off from Azimio and rushed to UDA and created a home there and called the other side names. But now they seem to be finding themselves in the same situation. I'm just wondering how these two gentlemen would behave. Because they took off from that side, calling the other side names. But now they're finding themselves in the same pot. So is it about belief? Is it about ideology? Is it about philosophy? I doubt. It is about the stomach. And we as Kenyans must end the politics of the stomach. This is the time. We must end it. We must not give these people room to propagate and continue promoting politics of the stomach. We are tired as Kenyans. We are tired of them. We are tired of them using Kenyans as a doormat because they are only interested in their stomachs. The Tumbo policy.
I want us to look at these names and also listen to what they talked about when the president got into power, from John Mbadi to Hassan Joho, because it seems like most of them, actually all of them, are from ODM. John Mbadi, Opiyo Wandayi, Hassan Joho, Wycliffe Oparanya, all of them from ODM. But listen to former governor of Mombasa, Hassan Joho, together with John Mbadi. When this government came into power, the CSS were being vetted. This is what they said actually about the KK regime.
Hakuna mfisadi katika nchi hii kama William Samoei Ruto. Sina haja mimi si umange maneno. Hata tuma watu 100 waseme vile wanasema, mimi shida yangu ni wewe. Na mimi nataka kusema hivi, I want to ensure it's not only me, my friend. Watu ni wengi ambaye hawawezi kukubali kamwe kuongozwa katika nchi hii na mtu ambaye ameweka rekodi ya ufisadi katika Kenya hii. Hatuwezi kubali. Na sisi tutatoka kule kwetu Mombasa. Mombasa Kiswahili ndio wenyewe. Na sisi kule tuna mambo mawili tu, hatubadilishange watu majina. Tunasemanga mwizi ni mwizi. Hey, shida iko wapi? So mimi sina time ya kukumbuka sijui wale wanaitwanga nani, siwajui hata majina yao. Taki uniuliza siwajui. Mimi najua tu William Samoei Ruto. Na wewe kuja useme mwenyewe. Wilbaro. Nilipeleka Wilbaro mimi la kimtaani la kucheza nalo zamani. And then someone has the audacity kukaa kwa jukwaa. Hata nimeshangaa mimi. Wanasema sijui Governor Joho akitaka aje ongea na fulani, mimi niongee na wao nini? Wana agenda gani hao watu? Sisi agenda ni hii hapa, what we are developing on behalf of our people, because primarily our responsibility is to represent the people.
Philip, Kisia, you know these people because you are in their party. Now they are our cabinet ministers. They said one thing about KK, and now it's all about national unity. Now it's all about it is for the people. But first reaction immediately you heard these names. Where were you? How did you feel about this?
Well, Jed, of course I wasn't surprised because they're all driven by their stomachs. It's about the Tumbo policy. It's not about philosophy. It's not about anything. They don't believe in anything. Okay? Because my friend John Badi, who is the chairman of ODM, called the previous team, when it was being vetted, a skunk. Now half of the skunk has been returned. Half of them are back in fact more than half. The people he referred to as skunks are back in cabinet. You know, of course we have a few new names like himself, Paranya, Joho, and a few other people that, and some of them I've never heard of them. But the question that we must be asking John Badi, is that group a skunk? Now that they have a new coat of paint, is it better than the skunk we had? Or is it still a skunk? But that is not the fundamental issue that we must be dealing with. When President Ruto dismissed, he actually sacked them, those skunks. He sent them home. He said that these people have let me down. Okay? They have not performed to my expectations. They have actually let me down. The same William Ruto has reappointed the people who let him down. Was this serious when you're sending these people home? Or was he trying to cool the tempers? That is one thing that we need to look at. But most importantly, because he is the problem, and I've said it before, William Ruto is the problem. He is the one who is incompetent. Okay? But he was using those people he has appointed as a smoke screen. Forget about them because it was his skunk. Now he has appointed another group of skunks. What were the issues that were raised by Kenyans? What are the fundamental issues that were raised by Kenyans? Kenyans said that we have a cabinet that is full of corrupt fellows. Kenyans said that we have a cabinet that is full of incompetent people. Kenyans said that it does not reflect the face of Kenya. Ethnicity, diversity. Kenyans said that the people who had been appointed at that time into cabinet did not have the necessary experience to run the dockets that they had been given. The question that we should be asking ourselves and asking President William Ruto is that have you now appointed people who meet the criteria that Kenyans were looking forward to? Has he met that criteria?
Yeah.
That is a big question. Has the criteria been met?
You know, the big conversation was about diversity. When Gachagua told us that it's a shareholders government,
you see,
some are also asking, before you even answer me that, why is it only ODM within Azimio? What do you think about that? Does this show diversity, first of all?
You see, diversity means that, of course, you create a face of Kenya. Okay? That the community of Kenya is represented. It's not about political parties. Diversity is not about political parties. It's about whether the face of Kenya has been reflected, race has been reflected, gender has been reflected. Those are some of the parameters you look at. Okay? Because those are the parameters that are covered in the Constitution of 2010. And then, of course, now you go to these other things that people are asking for. Free of corruption. Do you meet do you meet what is contained in Chapter 6 of our Constitution? Do you have the necessary experience to run that ministry that you've been given? Do you have a track record? You know, when you look at countries like China, Russia, Japan, Germany, and what have you, Singapore, and what have you, look at even some African countries. When you, for example, take the docket of defense, you give it to somebody who has the necessary experience to run that docket. I'm not saying the person who has been given that docket has the qualification and experience to run that docket. I'm sure the president has looked at the CV and is convinced that the people he has given the job have the necessary experience.
For many, that sounds like a joke.
That is his problem. That is not my cabinet. If I was the president, I would have given you a better cabinet, I can tell you for free. But that is the cabinet that President William Ruto has decided to have. Okay?
You know
what? So the issue is, what we should be asking ourselves is, has President Ruto addressed the issues people raised? Has he? Yes or no? From where I sit, I doubt. Because almost 60–70% of the cabinet that he himself pronounced as incompetent and failed cabinet, he has brought them back. So he's basically admitting that the people he has appointed have abilities, but the problem is him.
You know, the question is, if you change cabinet, even if you brought technocrats, people that people don't even know, can leadership in this country change with the president being on top? That is also a question that Kenyans are having.
Jed, I don't know what you're asking me about, but you see, I've tried to persuade you to forget about the big L syndrome problem. That's the problem President Ruto is having, the big L syndrome. He believes he knows everything. He believes he's the farmer number one. He believes the teacher number one. He believes the business person number one. He believes the doctor number one. He believes he's everything number one. I think the only area that he doesn't excel is probably, partaking in some of the things that we partake. That's where he says he doesn't do very well. But he believes in himself that he's number one in every aspect. Okay? And that is his failure. You cannot be number one everywhere. Okay? And that's why, as a good leader, you work with people around you, you work with a team to deliver a country's vision.
A big name that is popping up, Raila Amolo Odinga. His Excellency, the Right Honorable former Prime Minister. Some are saying it's not even about Joho, it's not about Mbadi, it's not about Oparanya. It's about Raila Odinga. It's generally believed he's the one who nominated these names. Generally believed he had conditions before even a talk. But you look at the president announcing these names, the L is going to Raila again. What's your general opinion about Raila now that you've seen the situation the country's in?
Let me tell you, Jed, I've said this before, and I'll repeat myself. I have tremendous and profound respect for Raila, for what he has been able to do for our country. But on this particular one, I had already sent a warning shot. I had requested my party leader, a man I respect, to listen to the people. Particularly because he is in his sunset years, to listen to the generation that we're about to hand over to. What are their aspirations? Okay? Because we cannot continue running this country the way we've been running this country since independence. The generation that has come, the two generations, actually the three generations, we have the millennials, Gen Z, and Alpha. They look at things differently. Okay? So, as a respected leader, I have requested my party leader, because he has done a lot. I doubt whether Raila would want his legacy written off in a spur of a second because of these small little gains that are personal to people. Because these people who have been appointed, I don't think they have capacity to bring any change, desired change. So I have again and again requested my party leader to listen to the people, to listen to the three generations who are actually his children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Okay? So I hold him with a lot of respect. The last official statement that came from Raila was very clear.
Yeah.
That there are conditions precedent
to
forming any government
unity,
or having any unity, government of national unity, or having any discussions. So I will forgive him up to now. I know he's out of the country, but I am one of the people who are waiting for him to issue an official statement. Is he in support of what has happened? Because I hold him in utmost respect. He has not issued an official statement saying that his hand, his mind is in this thing. He is not. He said very clearly, there are conditions precedent. He said people must be, before any dialogue, before any forming of any government of national unity, that we must have what? The people who have lost their loved ones must be compensated. I still don't know how we can compensate life. I don't know how many billions this government can pay to compensate life. We've lost over 60 people. Young children, young Kenyans, we've lost. So I don't know whether Raila wants to be part of a bloody government that is full of blood on his hands. So the other thing that Raila talked about is saying, wait a minute, what are the Gen Zs asking for? These are the demands from the Gen Z that must be put on the table. So all the conditions that were set by this generation, the new generation, by all Kenyans, issues to do the cost of living. Accountability.
Police officers that kill.
Brutality. Police brutality. Have they been tackled? When were they tackled? He said, once we do that one, then we can have a convention. Okay? But now, we seem to be rushing to take appointments that are going to benefit a few people. I can tell you from where I sit that I'm waiting, I'm one of those people waiting for directions from the party leader to tell us exactly whether he supports this move and why, if indeed he supports. Because I've not heard from him. Have you heard from him?
Not yet.
We have not heard from him. The last time we heard from him is before he flew out of the country. And his position was very clear. And because he is the party leader, we take that is the official position, not Badi, who was screaming on top of a rooftop, saying that, ODM, no, he's not the party leader, he's just chairman.
From what Raila had given as conditions, you look at the protests that happened on Tuesday. And these were the conditions before anything, any national unity government, any dialogue. And then we saw what happened in Zimmerman, you know, not well reported by our media houses, of course, but we saw videos on TikTok and Twitter on police officers, you know, firing at people's homes, tear gas being lobbed. I saw one carrying her child, and then she was just being hit by tear gas again and again. Why haven't we learned? What would you make of this situation of learning from what we have seen, which is actually fueling some of these protests?
You see, you know, last week I told you, you people have been gagged. And some of the media houses are conflicted because they run businesses. So I'm not surprised that some of these things are not being covered. I know Communication Authority of Kenya had cited, you know, I think Article 33, subsection 1, and so on and so forth. Okay? In their last communication. They have no monopoly over our Constitution. Our Constitution gives us the right and freedom to express ourselves in a manner that is prescribed in the Constitution. So, when you see the things that happened in Eastlands in the last few days, where police have acted with a lot of excess, brutality, our people have been maimed. I'm even told that we've lost lives in Eastlands, where I was born and raised. And this regime thinks that we are going to keep quiet. Do they even imagine for 1 second that some of us will keep quiet? When we can actually see our people being fired at, tear gas, with chemicals, bullets, peaceful people. You even go to estates and use brutal force. I can tell you, Jed, we as Kenyans, and we are 57 million of us, we would rather die standing than kneeling in front of a man. If we must kneel, it will be before God, not before any human being.
You know, you listen to President Ruto, on top of his vehicle again, says these people are faceless, they are formless, they are leaderless. He talks about the Gen Z protests, and he says, look, we cannot continue this way. I went to X platform to speak to them, walitoroka. This tone from the president, you listen to him. What is happening?
You see, Jed, I think President Ruto is living in the past. He forgets that he is not governing using the old constitution. President Ruto is behaving as if he has the title deed for Kenya. This is not Sugoi. Do you think this is Sugoi, Kenya Sugoi? Sugoi is part of Kenya. Why does he think that, you know, that he can address us as if he's addressing his children and wife? He must respect Kenyans. He must address Kenyans with respect. When he's talking about our children being faceless and leaderless, and all those adjectives he's using, does he think that we'll also address him with respect? We shall not respect him. Respect is earned. And if President Ruto is sitting somewhere imagining that he's going to box Kenyans into a corner to submit to his demands, he is mistaken. He is completely off the line, because Kenya belongs to all of us. We must keep on reminding President Ruto that he is exercising power, authority that is delegated through Article 1. He has no other powers. And from where I sit, Jed, Kenyans have recalled him. Kenyans have recalled. Kenyans have sacked President Ruto. Kenyans have told him, no, you have no job. He's hanging on a tail. of an elephant. How can you do that when the board has sacked you? You have been sacked by the board of directors who are Kenyans. I have told you you are no longer our employee. You are sacked. Go home.
Yeah.
Come and pick up your dues. So who makes him believe that he's still in charge? You see, Jed, I told you last week, the president can continue hanging on to power using those instruments that is at his disposal. The military, the police, and the goons, like we saw in CBD. They're a handful. How many Kenyans, you saw what happened in Bangladesh? How many Kenyans will President Ruto kill? If that is his intention, to continue staying in power. Kenyans will overrun him. The sooner he realizes that he must come on the table and address the issues that that the Kenyans have put forward. And those do not include appointing some 2, 3, 4 people, 5 into cabinet. He's not going to quell anything. Yeah, because those fellows don't speak, they don't speak on behalf of Kenyans. As a matter of fact, I think from where I sit, things are even going to be worse. If, on a scale of 10, if the anger was at 8, now it is at 9.9.
How different are things now? Because for some, they would think, because he has brought ODM, he has brought the Western region, he has brought
Which
Nyanza,
ODM? Which ODM?
How things
Which ODM? Which ODM? Which ODM?
The chairman?
Which ODM?
John Mbadi is not...
Those are 4 people, 3 people, 4 people. Is that ODM? ODM is a mass movement of millions of Kenyans.
So you cannot just
Has he brought millions of Kenyans on the table? By bringing 4 people, is he going to address the issue of corruption? Is he going to address the issue of cost of living? We want him to talk about the cost of living. Those 4 people he's appointed will not address the issue of the cost of living. We want to talk about corruption. Will these 4 people address the issue of corruption? Will they? Can they? Do they have capacity? They have 0 capacity. And I can tell you that, sometimes when, when you are given an opportunity to renovate your house, don't refurbish it. President Ruto was given an opportunity to renovate. Renovating, when you renovate, is like a new product. When you refurbish, you're just putting a coat of paint, a whitewash. If heavy rains come, they can whitewash that rain. And you come back to the old thing.
Maybe talk to me finally about Erasmus Murkomen. There's a name in so many people's minds right now. Everyone is thinking he will not come back. Some would say he was flashing around a lot of opulence, from watches to ties. But he's back representing the youth now in cabinet. From where you sit, what game is being played here? Or is it a matter of a pact that was made before election? The president has to stick with the pact.
You see, President Ruto, as I said, he has had an opportunity to renovate, not to refurbish. By bringing somebody who had been rejected by the people, people are saying, no, this one we completely reject. President Ruto has actually peed on the faces of the youth. He's peed on their faces. Bad urine. Because this is a man, this is a man the youth was saying, please.
You have said we will not respect him.
This is a man people are saying, the youth were saying, wait a minute. We know where you've come from. We know how you've been. We know you. And then you behave in a manner that is offending the youth. Then you bring this, Why couldn't you even hide him somewhere where the youth cannot see him? Why could you hide him somewhere?
Now he's in the docket for
Why
youth.
can't you hide him somewhere, Mr. President? Why? Is it this, even if you want some from your backyard, is it the only man that you could find? Is it the only one? Is it the only one? I don't want to be personal here.
Yeah.
I'm just talking on behalf of the youth because I have this opportunity.
Yes.
There is youth said no, Tawe. What are you doing? Why are you urinating with the youth?
A lot of respect we gotta give the president, even though he has been
No.
rejected. You know, we gotta wrap
I
it
am
up.
talking on behalf of the youth.
Yes.
I'm not talking about my own behalf.
Yeah. Talk about us.
I'm talking about you. Are you comfortable? A man telling you, I bought a watch, this one I bought for 900. You know, thank God I don't have a watch. I just have, this is, my son happens to be an ambassador for youth, for, you know, the country can tell you.
Yeah.
A man who's telling you, this one I bought using my money. This one is 900. I bought using my money. What about the other ones? You bought using whose money? You're telling the youth. You are telling youth who have no jobs, jobless, hopeless, helpless. You're telling the youth.
And he's back now.
And he's not even back. You can't even hide him.
Get to put cooperatives.
You can't even, no, somewhere that cannot be seen.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the backyard. Maybe make him an advisor. But you know, even Ruto's advisors, you know, an advisor, Jed, an advisor is somebody who advises.
Yeah.
You advise, you don't open your mouth. You are back office. But Ruto's advisors are in the front office. This is a completely government that does not know how government operates. Because an advisor, what business do you have to come in front line to start talking policy? Your job is back office. You advise from back office.
No,
Then you allow your boss, your employer, to make the policy statement.
Can I ask you something about a pact that is made pre-elections? Say with Kithure Kindiki, maybe Murkomen, maybe Duale. How do you deal with these pacts?
Which pact?
Because now
Which
it seems he doesn't want to remove
You
them as
see,
if they agreed on
you
something.
see, I said Ruto had an opportunity to renovate the house. He has decided to refurbish the house. If he had a pact with these characters, he gave them a chance. They screwed up the chances.
Oh, yeah.
He had an opportunity to say, you know what? I gave you a chance. You messed it up. I have no, you know, it's not me. He had a grand opportunity to run away from these characters. But why he's hanging on their tails, if you have an opportunity, ask him.
Well, Mr. President, maybe we can have a chit-chat with you, but I hope Kenyans are watani salimia because talking to you is a little bit dangerous. That is Philip Kisia, Unscripted with Philip Kisia. Final word is usually the word we wrap up with. Philip Kisia, maybe one more statement before we call it a wrap today.
You know, Jed, and this is to my president, the country is bleeding. The country and the people are hurting. They are hurting. They gave, I can tell you, they probably had given you a chance to redeem yourself. Instead of doing that, you are 6 feet down, 6 feet down. You've dug another 2 feet.
Well, you can only answer that for yourself. Thank you for tuning into this conversation. It's all about renovating and not refurbishing. The president, as Kisia says, has pissed on Kenyans. What a place to wrap up. Have a good one. Have a great weekend.